All right, let's just jump right in. There are these days in history that they just change everything. They draw this massive line in the sand, a before and an after. Well, March 21st, 2026, that was one of those days. A conflict that had been kind of bubbling under the surface just exploded. I'm talking a scale and a speed that absolutely nobody, not in any government, not in any spy agency, was ready for.
So get this, it was supposed to be a day of celebration, the second day of Eid al-Fitr. But instead of that, the entire world was glued to their screens, watching this series of incredibly bold, coordinated strikes that completely redrew the map of what we thought was possible, all in just a few hours.
And it started with this. Boom. Iranian ballistic missiles hit near Dimona. Now, this wasn't just some random attack. No. This was a message, loud and clear, sent right to the heart of Israel's most sensitive, most secret nuclear program.
And then, almost at the exact same moment, thousands of kilometers away, another impact. This time near Diego Garcia. We're talking about a massive joint US-UK base way out in the Indian Ocean. A place everyone thought was an untouchable fortress, absolutely secure. Well, not anymore.
And just look at the scale of this thing. I mean, while the world is still trying to process those first two hits, Iran's Revolutionary Guard comes out and announces Wave 73. Not 7, 73. It's just staggering. So you have to ask, what on earth was the message here? What was this incredible show of force all about?
Well, these weren't just random shots in the dark. Not at all. These were carefully planned moves, like a chess master sending a message. Two very different but equally terrifying messages. Okay, so let's break this down. On one hand, you've got the Dimona Strike. That was a direct message to Israel, basically a tit-for-tat for earlier strikes on their own nuclear sites. The message couldn't be clearer. Hey, that crown jewel of yours, your nuclear program, it's vulnerable. But the Diego Garcia hit, man, that was a message for the whole world, aimed right at Washington, London, and every major European capital. It was saying, you think you're out of reach? Think again. Nowhere is safe.
And they even gave it a name. The IRGC used this phrase, an eye for an eye, a facility for a facility. And that is absolutely crucial to understand. It creates this chilling new rulebook. It basically says, you hit our nuclear sites, we hit yours. This completely flips the script on nuclear deterrence in the region. Suddenly, any move, any escalation becomes unbelievably dangerous.
For decades, you'd hear military planners call Diego Garcia the unsinkable aircraft carrier. And for good reason. It was this perfectly placed, super secure base way beyond the reach of most enemies. But by hitting it, Iran did more than just show off some new missile tech. They completely shattered a strategic assumption that had stood for half a century. All of a sudden, that unsinkable carrier looked like it could sink.
Okay, so this brings us to the million-dollar question, right? How did this even happen? I mean, we're talking about some of the most advanced, most sophisticated air defense systems on the planet. Things like THAAD, David Sling. How did they fail? Well, the answer isn't some clever tactical trick. It's much simpler. And honestly, much more brutal. It all comes down to math.
And this is where the economics of modern warfare get really, really scary. Just look at these numbers. An attacker can send a drone that costs, what, maybe 50 grand? But to shoot it down, the defender has to fire an interceptor that costs $3 million. That is just, it's not a sustainable model. You can't win that game. The attacker can always afford to send more cheap stuff than you can afford to shoot down. It's basically a war of attrition, but you're fighting against their factory instead of their army.
And that lopsided math opens the door for a truly devastating strategy. It happens in 3 steps. First, step 1, exhaustion. You just send wave after wave of cheap drones and rockets. The goal? Make the defender use up all their expensive interceptors. Step 2, identification. As they're firing everything they have, you're not just watching, you're mapping. You're seeing where the gaps are opening up, where they're running thin. And then, step 3, penetration. Once you've found those holes in the cheese, you fire your best stuff, the advanced, hypersonic missiles, right through the gaps you just created.
So here's the real takeaway, the thing you have to get. Those first 72 waves, they weren't actually the main attack. They were the setup. It was all a giant, weeks-long intelligence-gathering mission. They were using those cheap drones to map out the entire defense system, to find the weak spots, and to soften it up for the one final killer punch in Wave 73. But as if all that wasn't enough, the missile strikes were only part of the story. On that very same day, the whole conflict just blew wide open, putting even more pressure on defenses that were already stretched to the breaking point. Iran publicly called on its ally, Hezbollah, to open up a new front from the north. And when you talk about Hezbollah, you're talking about a massive arsenal, over 150,000 rockets and drones. That is an insane amount of firepower. This isn't some small border fight. This is a full-blown, massive second front opening up.
And this is where we get to this key idea, multi-axis saturation. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. Imagine you're a goalie, and there's one person shooting at you. You might be able to stop it. Now imagine people are shooting pucks at you from the front, the side, and behind, all at the same time. At some point, it doesn't matter how good you are, you only have two hands. It's the same thing here. When you're getting hit from the east and the north at the same time, it's not about skill anymore. It's just a numbers game. You physically cannot stop more things than you have interceptors to shoot at them. Eventually, you just run out.
And this changes the entire game of what air superiority even means. For like 70 years, we've thought that controlling the sky meant having the best fighter jets, the best pilots. But March 21st suggests a totally new way of thinking about it. You might not need a single fighter jet to own the sky. All you need is enough cheap rockets to make the other guy use up all his bullets. Once their missile defense magazines are empty, guess what? You own the air.
Of course, what happened on March 21st didn't just stay on the battlefield, not even close. The shockwaves spread instantly, hitting diplomatic circles and the global economy like a tidal wave.
Think about it. The Diego Garcia strike suddenly made every capital in Europe realize, wait a minute, we're in range now. The UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer almost immediately pivoted to a defensive support-only stance. The Dimona Strike? That messed with the entire nuclear equation, and there were reports from Axios that the US started secret back-channel talks. Every single government was suddenly scrambling, redoing all their math.
And look, here's why this matters to you. To all of us, really. This kind of chaos in the Middle East makes the price of oil skyrocket. And what does that mean? It means you pay more at the pump. It means it costs more to transport food, so your grocery bill goes up. It means your heating bill goes up. The shockwaves from March 21st travel right from the battlefield directly into your wallet.
And maybe the most revealing piece of this whole puzzle came from that Axios report, the idea that the U.S. was secretly offering to unfreeze Iranian assets in exchange for a 5-year pause on their nuclear program. I mean, that's basically a new version of the old nuclear deal, and it tells you everything you need to know. It suggests that deep down, Washington knows the current military situation is just not sustainable. That's not a move you make from a position of strength. That's a move you make when you see things are about to go very, very wrong.
So that leaves us all with a really unsettling question, doesn't it? March 21st created this terrifying new reality, a world where Iran showed it could hit targets everywhere, that it could overwhelm even the best defenses, and that it could open up new fronts whenever it wanted. So the question that every leader, every strategist is wrestling with right now is, was that it? Was that the peak? Or was March 21st just another step on a ladder that's still going up to somewhere far, far more dangerous?